Hi everybody, and welcome to episode 108 of the I Rock Knits podcast. I am so happy to be with you here today. I have so much stuff on the table. My life has gone to life in the recliner to life at 500 speed. I walked a mile and 1.3 miles this morning at the dog park. It took us 35 minutes. I ran into an old friend from the dog park, and she was going to do a second lap, and I thought, I bet I can do a second lap. And so I did, and my hip feels great. I have my 6-week checkup tomorrow. And I'm pretty sure they're gonna say, you are good to go. Friday morning, I woke up and got out of bed and walked out to the kitchen and didn't even think about my hip. And that was the first time. Like, there was no pain, no cane, no walker, just got up and walked out, was not limping. And then all day, I walked around saying, look at me walk. But then on Saturday, I wore blue jeans for the first time, which sounds crazy, but I had been in pajamas, right, for 2 weeks, or sweatpants. And then I moved up to leggings, but because my incision is from my low hip up into my buttocks, it's tender. And I have lots to tell you about Saturday, but I went to an event and I wore jeans with my sweater. And then we went out to dinner because it's my husband's birthday today. So happy birthday to Ross. He is the best man in the world. He is kind and forgiving and even-keeled. And I don't know how he got stuck with the high energy, drama, crying, tearful mess that this can be. And the orthopedic issues that this body has brought to his life. Anyway. So happy birthday to him. He is 62 today, and he is on the road all week. And my husband has not traveled all week for years. He is an executive now in the company, and so mostly he has coworkers that do that, right? And there was some scheduling conflicts. So he is gone all week this week and all week next week. He's coming home in between, and next week he doesn't leave till Tuesday, but I'm on my own. So I got up to a dog that had not been fed, a dog that had not been walked or run, which he does every morning at 5:30 a.m. My husband gets all that taken care of, and I came out to no Diet Coke treat in the refrigerator, which often my husband will leave me. He'll go and get a Diet Fountain Pop in the morning after his run and after he's gotten ready for the day, and he'll leave me one in the refrigerator. So spoiled, right? So I was like, okay, with the time change, I woke up early, which was weird for me, but we had a guy coming to the house to do some work on our porch early, and he got done really quick. And so then I was like, let's just go to the dog park and get it over with. Cody was giddy to be back at the dog park, but yeah, I feel like I have extra energy. My enthusiasm for life is coming back. It was 6 weeks. That's a long haul. I know for all of you, it's going to be like, wow, it's been 6 weeks already. But for me, it's been like, okay, we're at 6 weeks, finally, right? So no, that's all good. What am I wearing today? This is my Hootenanny Hoodie. This comes from the Minnesota 52 book. You can still get this as a complete PDF on Ravelry. And it has 16 patterns in it, and this is one of them, but you can also buy this just as an individual pattern. It has raglan shaping and a kind of interesting faced striped trim on the inside of the cuffs and at the bottom, and then a Latvian braid that goes up and around a very short hood. Most adult women that I know would never go up around their errands with their hood up. So the only reason that you really want a hoodie is like for comfort or maybe in case of rain. So the hood is short, so it will not pull back on your neck. You do bind off and re-pick back up. So there's a seam along the neckline that helps with stability to keep that from pulling up. So if one of the reasons that you don't like hoodies is because they choke you, and a lot of people cut them right here, that doesn't really happen on this sweater. The hood is not heavy, it's shorter than normal, and then I did that reinforced seam. But otherwise, it's a very fun knit. People have done them in tons of colors. So if you're interested in knitting a hoodie, you can go over to Ravelry and look. It's called Hootenanny Hoodie. It's the hoodie you wear to go to a hootenanny in the fall. And my friend in my knitting group, Hilka, knit this in kind of a cream and like a turquoise, bright, light blue. It is stunning. I never thought to swap the colors, the light for the dark, right? So that the light is the base and the dark is the trim. You should go over and look at that one because it's really, I think she has it on, I hope she has it on Ravelry now that I say that. But it's really a pretty one. Anyway, so yeah, that's what I'm wearing today. We have just a ton. I have more Cori stories today than I think I've ever had. And you know, I can go on, right? So we'll get to those as well. Let's start out right away by getting into the shawl of the week. I've got a great shawl for this week. This is by Lisa Ross, Paper Daisy Creations. I have not knit a lot of Lisa's patterns, but she has glorious shawl patterns. If you have mini skeins or lots of leftover fingering weight yarn, I urge you to go take a look at all of Lisa's patterns. This is an older pattern, you know, a couple years older. It came out in like 2020. So it's not her most recent one. It's an old pattern, but it's called Dress It Up. And it is a crescent shaped shawl. Variegated yarns of Northern Bee Studio is what she used. And she used kind of a dark maroon and a brown, which is where I got the idea to use up some red and brown that I had in my stash. I had a variegated brown with red in it, like called, I want to say it's called Black Cherry or Cherry something. And then I had this red. And so I thought, oh, that would be perfect for that. And I don't think I would have thought to put those colors together otherwise. It takes a skein of, 2 skeins of fingering weight yarn, a US 4 needle. It was a lace pattern with some garter at the top. And then it goes into this lace pattern. But it is only a couple of repeats of that lace. So here you just have some eyelet rows, and then at the bottom you go back to your main color and you've got some picot. It's super long and narrow, which is my favorite type to wear. This is my go-to favorite type of shawl, where this length right here from the top to the bottom is not super deep. This is a little bit deeper than a couple of the ones that I have designed, but that is my favorite, having really long tails so you can wrap it around your neck. Either way, from the front to the back or the back to the front, and it will stay on because the tails have some weight as opposed to them just being tiny little tails that you have to tuck in. You can also tie it because they're nice and long, but I just thought that lace was stunning, really pretty. It is not a difficult shawl to knit. And it is called Dress It Up. Okay, and this week for the sweater of the week, we have a dress. So I have only knit a couple of dresses in my career as a knitter and a couple of coats, but this one is a favorite. So I saw this at Stitches Midwest back in, I'm gonna say 2015 or something like that. And I didn't knit it till probably a year or two later. It uses Fiesta yarns, which is like a linen blend. And I purchased the yarn to make the actual dress. They had a variegated yarn and then kind of a semi-solid yarn so that you could knit the whole thing. And I purchased the yarn at the time. This was available in Knitters Magazine number 115, summer of 2014. It says, working lace with 2 hand-dyed yarns created a fabric with plenty of character, especially when a semi-solid and a multicolor are blended into 2 row stripes. So the whole thing was just striped. And I have a bright orange cotton shift dress underneath it. So that's why the orange is showing through. If you would put a different color underneath it, would definitely, because there's enough lace in that skirt that it would definitely show through. I do have a picture of me wearing it at the Stockinette Zombies knitting retreat. It's kind of a funny picture, so I will put it in here. I hope that this all gives you a laugh, because it is totally Cori's extroverted personality. I think I said I need someone to take a picture of me wearing this dress because I don't have a picture on Ravelry, and I think it was Carl and Melanie. You guys will have to remind me that were sitting at the table egging me on. I could be wrong. But it would have been it would have been probably one of the first ZKs that we went to in Rochester. Anyway, so I laid on the table and had the picture taken. It's just a lovely little pattern. I really did enjoy knitting it. I'm not sure with knitters whether or not the patterns are still available. But if you've never knit a dress, I would recommend it. My Friendship Road tunic, knit up in worsted weight and just made longer, is darling as a dress, and I wear it all the time. And it really was not that much more knitting. Once you get, if you're gonna knit a pullover and then you're going to add just the inches at the bottom, it isn't that much more knitting to get that tunic length, or then to go down to even just above the knee in, stockinette. You're just, depending on what your pattern looks like, or stripes or whatever. This is knit in like a fingering weight, in a sport weight on a 2 and a 5. So that was a little more slow going, but the lace was really fun and highly repeatable. And I wore this twice since the last podcast. And I thought, I don't think you've ever talked about this on the podcast. We had a couple of really warm days and I was looking for something to wear. And I thought, and I also wore it when I went to South Dakota. So if any of you came over from the South Dakota event I taught at in September, I got stopped by a lady right away, and she was like, I need to know what that dress is. I want to knit it. So it's called Tracks and Trails, and it came out of the Knitters magazine. So there you go. Shawl and sweater of the week this week. All right, I have a fun recipe. I am not a big breakfast eater. As a matter of fact, with intermittent fasting, a lot of times I skip breakfast completely. I would not say that intermittent fasting has been highly successful for me in a weight loss journey, but maybe I'm not doing it quite as well as I should. My treats in the evening after dinner are what put me over the top, I think. Anyway, so best breakfast casserole is the recipe this week, and this is kind of a dump recipe. I do not like egg bakes at all. Not a huge fan, especially the ones that can be kind of soggy in the middle. Like, I don't mind an over easy egg, but I do not want my scrambles to be real wet. Okay, so a half an onion, a pound of sausage, 8 ounces of diced ham. So it's got 2 meats, which means my husband's going to love it always. More meat for him. 4 cups of cubed hash browns, which I think is great. A cup of cottage cheese, 4 ounces of diced green chilies, 2 cups of shredded cheddar, and 6 eggs. So it's less eggs, more stuff. And I think that is what makes it so delicious, right? I have used cottage cheese in a lasagna recipe before, and it melts down. Anyone who would have a texture problem with cottage cheese, I don't think when you cook with it in food, it's a big deal. I'm sure you could probably use like cream cheese, maybe even sour cream, but the cottage cheese gives it that protein, which is what I'm always looking for. More protein in my meals to have it last me longer so that I feel full longer. You just cook the onion sausage together and stir in the ham, all the other stuff, and then you just put it in a pan. So I think going into Thanksgiving, some people will be having company, or you've got family home, like kids home from school, or you've got grandkids coming over for Thanksgiving. That might be a nice, easy thing to make where you've got a lot of meat and some substance and a completely different profile than like your Thanksgiving dinner, right? Because you've got the sausage, the ham, the hash browns all in the pan, which then it sets up better for me, and then I prefer that. I don't know. My mom used to make an egg bake back in the day. I was just never a fan of whatever recipe she used. That's terrible. Anyway, I am going to see my parents on Wednesday. Ross is going to be out of town, and I didn't think I could go because I'm teaching, and I had some things to do, but I kind of rearranged my schedule. Mom has not been doing great with her back and neck and her walking since that car accident in March. If you're new, you can go back, but I get a lot of my orthopedic issues from my mom, but hers started about 20 years earlier than mine, so she's had 29 surgeries over probably the last 40 years. So I just want to get down there, and I haven't seen them, and they can't come up. It's really hard for them to travel anymore. My dad's 89. My mom is going to be 83 here next week. On Tuesday is her birthday, but I teach on Tuesday, so I couldn't go. So I just called them and said, hey, I got to come. I'm trying to fit this in. So Jeff, if you're watching and you want to go to lunch or supper with your family, that's my brother. He watches because he does some of the cooking, and he's a huge reader. So he watches the podcast. And yeah, I would like to see him too. Oh, I have one more thing in the recipe section. So you guys know Worcestershire sauce, right? Worcestershire sauce, Worcestershire, you know, no one can ever pronounce it correctly. Anyway, so I'm watching someone, I think I saw this on the Food Network, but then I saw it again on my phone. Someone was making a thing, and they called it Watch Your Sister sauce. And I thought that was perfect, right? So I'm going to put a little Post-it note on my Worcestershire sauce in my refrigerator that says Watch Your Sister on it, because it'll make me laugh every time, right? This is your Watch Your Sister sauce. I just thought I'll make you all laugh with that one in the recipe section this week. Okay. I have a little tip or trick this week. I went with my friend Matt, who you all know, and my friend Bonnie to an event at B. Woolen on Saturday, which I'm going to talk about in Cori's stories. But Matt was sitting across from us, and he is such a good guy. So easygoing, sat through 4 hours of an event, which was lovely. And they fed us food, and we all won skeins of yarn. Oh, I didn't bring mine over here. We all won skeins of yarn, and the three of us. They did a drawing, and then we got a skein of yarn from Taki Stacy Charles, and they were the sponsor, and they were showing all of their winter spring yarns and all their samples. It was a huge trunk show. You could try things on, but there was not a single men's pattern in the bunch. And Matt's like, it's fine, I'm knitting. I get to see all the yarns. It's not like he couldn't use any of the yarns for something for himself, but anyway, we had a lovely time. But in the middle of the event, he got out a stitch marker, and he got out this case, and he flipped it open, and Bonnie was looking at it. And then I said, Matt, let me take a picture of it, because that is a really nice little case. So it's called Folka, F-O-L-K-A. It has a little saying on the top that if you have your Folka, you'll never forget anything. But it's a medicine organizer or a fishing, lure or hook organizer that flips open, but folds back up to about the size of a bar of soap. So I will put the link to Amazon in the down bar. It's called Portable Compartments Medicine Organizer. And I think I'll just put pictures in. The one that came up first was called Grace's Dawn Pill Box, 8 compartments. And then I have the link there. And Matt had stitch markers and a needle and 1, 2, 3, 4. I think there are 8 compartments. It flips over and then down, and it latches shut. Yeah, so I thought, gosh, you know what? If you're looking for gifts for Christmas for a knitter friend on a budget, right? I think they were $8.98, which is not bad, right? That's not, that would be kind of a nice little gift to give your little knitting group if you had a couple people in it. or whatever. So yeah, there's my tip this week for something that you can all go purchase. All right, what have I been watching? Oh my gosh, you guys. I watched some terrible movies. And you know from the title, you know as soon as you turn it on, this is going to be funny, right? But I saw a promo on Instagram, I think. And these kids were dancing around the table. And I love a good musical. And they were dancing and singing to that song, Call Me Maybe. And I thought, oh, I got to see that. But it was in the third of the 3 movies. So, of course, I had to watch the first 2. The Kissing Booth 1, 2, and 3. Has anybody watch this? They're just lighthearted girl in high school. They were born at the same time. Her best friend is this boy. Her mother passes away from cancer early on in the first movie, or is already passed. She lives with her dad and her little brother, but she's in love with her best friend's older brother, and he's kind of like a Romeo, I don't know, and so it's their relationship, and it's all about high school and then eventually college, because the movies go on forever. But the kids were cute, and you know, you kind of know where it's going, that they'll probably develop some type of a relationship eventually, and things happen to them. And anyway, so they're movies, and I watched all 3. I would not say that, you know, they were a 10, but they were highly enjoyable to me. There was no violence. There was no politics. There was no anxiety for me. I hate being on the edge of my seat for a long period of time. I don't like that feeling of what's going to happen next. Like, this was just light. It was easy to knit to, so I thought I would share that with you. Then I found out Good Fight, the show The Good Fight, which used to be The Good Wife. And then they kind of disbanded all those people in Chicago. And then they started this other show, The Good Fight, which I watched like the first season or 2. And then it went away. And I didn't know where it went to. And I thought it was gone, but it was not gone. And it's back on Paramount Plus. And I watched one of the seasons on maybe Netflix, but not all the seasons were on Netflix. So I had to do a subscription for $4.99 or whatever to Paramount Plus for a week or for a month, so that I could watch all these episodes that I had missed. And it is so good. It is quirky and dumb, smart and funny, and deals with some of the issues of the day, politics, the pandemic, in a giant law firm, which for me now is fascinating. And I told Kylie on Saturday night, because we went out for her dad's birthday with Kylie and Stevie, and I told her, I said, I know it has nothing to do with the law, like what that is like, but it makes me feel like I'm watching something that you might do someday. And I have no idea how law firms work. So to me, that part of it is fascinating, with the associates and the background and the investigator, and they send them out and they bring them in. But it's not a crime show. It's just the inner workings of this Black-owned law firm that also has a white woman at the helm, which is, you know, part of the issue. But they bring characters in for a whole season, and then they go away, and then they bring new characters in. And I love Marissa. I love Eli Gold. I hate the guy who works upstairs. What's his name? Oh, he's such a jerk. Anyway, so I'm on season 6. I'm almost done. I have 2 episodes left, and then it's done for now. But I do believe that Paramount will probably pick them up to keep going. Or they're probably recording another season. I just really like it. There's some sex, there's some foul language. So, you know, caveat for that, anymore, if you're watching TV after 8 o'clock, right? But yeah, I don't like Christine Baranski as an actress, but I really like her in this. Right? Like, at first in the old show, she was not my favorite, because I always thought she was kind of a bad person. But I like her. But then she goes a little crazy. I don't know what they tried to do with her storyline just to make her more interesting. But anyway, the good fight. And I've been watching football. So I watched the Gophers on Saturdays, University of Minnesota Gophers, which I did not go to that school, but they're our Big Ten school here in town. And then I watched the Vikings on Sundays. And last Sunday, we got to go to the game. And we are 7-1. We're winning. Barely every game, seems like. We're barely pulling it out. It's a clincher. But I love watching football. I was a cheerleading coach for many years, competitive cheerleaders. I was a high school cheerleader. I think it's a ridiculous sport and that we should not watch those men beat each other up on the football field, and I can't not watch it. I mean, they're all getting hurt. That should just bother me terribly, right? But I love cheering, and I feel bad. Like the game we played yesterday, the guy on the other team made a really bad play in the like last 2 minutes. He got a penalty by bumping into the center and lost the game. Like basically, don't know if they could have won, but like literally lost the game, and I felt really bad for him. He was on the other team. I feel bad when like the kicker misses and he could save the game, like those kind of things. I have a lot of empathy for that. But anyway, so I've been watching football too, and I'm going to tell you about the football game in Cori's stories. Maybe I should tell you, maybe I should put the football part in now. Yeah, let's just do that. So we got tickets given to us by a friend a month ago to go to the game on a week ago Sunday. And Ross had to go out of town. So Ross bought a new old truck, and it was in Pennsylvania. And I couldn't ride with him. I maybe could have, but it would have been a long time in the car. It was 2 days coming back. And so he was going to have it shipped, but shipping is so expensive to ship trucks and cars and the gas right now and stuff. And so he's just like, I think I'm just going to fly out and drive it back. And he's done this my whole life with him. We have purchased cars all over the country. He finds old cars with low miles, no rust, and brings them back. That's his passion. It's his knitting. It's his thing. We have more car parts in our basement, in our unfinished giant basement, than you can ever imagine. I think there are 2 or maybe 3 sets of tires down there right now. And he will sell old car parts that he finds and stuff, that men are looking for, whatever. Old radios from 1969, when you have to have the original, like it's crazy. He'll see that stuff and he'll buy it. And then anyway, so he was going to be gone, and Kylie and Stevie were going to go with us. And so I needed to find another Vikings fan. And my nephew, Andrew, is a huge Vikings fan, and he lives up here, and we don't see him all that often. And he and his wife live up here. So I got in touch, and I'm like, hey, do you want to go? The ticket's free. We had great seats on the 9 rows up. We were in the end zone. The seats were really good. I love watching the cheerleaders. But we were at the Jared Allen induction to the Ring of Honor for the Vikings. And he played for the Vikings. Not that you have to know this at all, but I have a video. He rode in on a black horse, and it was amazing. No one expected it. He is a cowboy. He's a huge rancher, and he played in the NFL for many years, and he has 2 little girls, and his wife were there. But he came in on this black Percheron horse. He came out of the tunnel where the football players run. It was incredible because he's a big guy. Like, he's a tall, big guy. People went nuts, and we were right next to the entrance, and no one was expecting it. I'll put a little video in if I can, hopefully. Hopefully it's out on the internet somewhere. I videoed it, but I didn't expect it to come, so I got it at the very tail end, and he's down the field a little bit on the horse. But it was really cool. I mean, that was really fun. And we won the game. But the kids had to drop me off because I had my cane, and then drive and park because Andrew had a pass to park at a ramp, and then afterwards the boys left to go get the car and drive up and pick us up. And Kylie said, we're just going to wait, Mom, until people get out of your way. We do not need someone to push you down, knock you down. I don't need to fall, right? Like, I'm doing great, but I don't need to fall. But we were down on row 9. And if you've ever been to a stadium, you know that the stairs are incredible, right? And I can go step over step, up and down, but 66 steps. I counted them on the way back up. And Kylie kept saying, Mom, you can stop. But there was one guy going up in front of us, and he wasn't really stopping. He was just going nice and slow. And I thought, you know what? This would be really good exercise if I could get and I'm a little stubborn that way when it comes to like digging in. I don't know if that's my former collegiate gymnastics training or whatever, but I was like, I'm not stopping. Like, I'm going all the way up. And there was a railing, so I could really put my weight on there if I needed to, but I went all the way up 66 steps to the very top. I just have to say, we felt really bad. One of the cheerleaders during the national anthem had her left hand over her heart. And I thought, oh, you poor thing. And, you know, they're all in the end zone, lined up. And you kind of want to yell at her and say, but I don't know if she's left-handed or got it wrong. I mean, they do have their pom-poms behind their back. I felt really bad. So I sent the picture to the Minnesota Vikings cheerleading coach and just said, you know, I coach cheerleaders. I'm not being disrespectful. I really feel bad. You know, there's no disrespect to this young girl, but I feel like if no one knows and she's done this before, that someone should at least, wasn't trying to get her in trouble, but someone's going to yell and scream and holler and put it on social media, right? And be mean. So it was the mama in me coming out going, oh, you poor thing. Like, that's really dumb if you don't know what hand to put over your heart, but how many of us put our hands over our heart anymore? I mean, we don't go to we haven't been to events in 2 years, right? To stand up and do it. Anyway, so I felt bad. So I sent them just a really nice note and just said, hey, I hope that, you know, nobody else took a picture of her and puts it out there, because that's not what you want, right? Mean people. Anyway, okay. Things I saw on the internet. I have 2 things to show today. I have a pair of socks and a shawl that I saw. One is an old pattern, one not so old, but I thought that they were fun. And this first pattern is for the Diversion socks, and it is from Knitty in 2009. So it's a really old pattern, and I had it in a file folder, and because it uses self-striping sock yarn to make your socks look not quite like self-striping. So you do a couple of rows of maybe pearl or garter in the socks, and I just think they're super cute. You can see if you look at the sole of the sock that they're striped, but it says, with so many wonderful dyers in our midst, I find myself spinning many painted rovings, winding vibrant colors onto my drop spindles, Navajo plied for strength and for boldness of color. The spun rovings make wonderful striped sock yarn. So she literally did this for a Knitty Spin, which is part of the Knitty magazine that has free patterns on it. So this is a free pattern. But if you're a spinner or if you have self-striping sock yarn, I think these socks are really cute for that kind of a thing. There are 223 projects out on Ravelry, so it's been knit quite a bit. Considering it was in the spinning section, but I think any fingering weight yarn would work. It's written for 2 sizes. Anyway, it just looked really cute. I think I think there's short rows in the pattern, but yeah, if you're looking for a little bit of a challenge, something different for your self-striping, you know, sometimes you just got to learn something new. So I thought that looked fun. Then here is a shawl pattern that came out in August of 2014. So another oldie, but this is just beautiful. And it's with that Freya hand painted yarn, which can be a little pricey, but it's that long color repeat, which is lovely. And this has got like kind of a spiral effect to it. And so I just thought that looked really fun to knit. This came out in Creative Knitting magazine in fall of 2014. Special wraps, capelets, and cowls. And it's by Kerry Milani. It uses lace weight yarn, although I'm sure you could do it in fingering. And I just thought it was really pretty. The way she's got it styled, I like the pink at the bottom and the blue and the green at the top. So yeah, I just thought I'd share those. I've had those set aside for a while in my podcast folder, and I'm like, just talk about them so you can move them out of your way. Okay, I have been on a little bit of a spending spree, and not that I have any extra money just laying around, and I don't need any more yarn or any more clothes. Cleaned out my closet, sorted, got rid of a whole bunch of stuff, and then promptly turned around and bought some new things. I like Old Navy. They're active wear, and at this time of year, they will clearance out some of their stuff, so the prices can be really good. So I got a couple of tops from Old Navy. I got a couple of things from Gudrun and Schoden, new things, a dress and 2 tunics. And I don't need any more of that, but their catalog came, and they also have some on sale stuff. Which is the only time I will ever buy the Gudrun Schoden stuff, because it is super pricey. But I love the way it washes. I love the way it wears. I wear it all the time. So I got that. And then what else did I purchase? Oh, then I got a couple of things from Kohl's, and they were all coming. And I just, you know, sometimes you just need some new undergarments and things like that, whatever. But for some reason, I am a huge fan of clear plastic bags. I like being able to see into a bag to see what the project is or whatever. And so I had ordered a couple of these bags from Knit Picks that are just like plastic like this. I'm gonna show you what this is, but it's just like a clear plastic tote. But then I was looking for something for in my purse, because I bought that box bag from Stephen B, but I got a new purse in the fall, early in the fall, and it's too big. So I was like, I need something smaller. And I found this little pouch on Etsy, and I love it. I think it is so cute, you know, really well made. I got my eyeglass cleaner, some medication, mascara, and you know, anyway, I took a couple things out of there. But it is from Cloud 9 Stitchery, and I have a little needle, a little chibi or a tapestry needle up there, stuck through there. So if I'm out and about, I could put a couple stitch markers in the bottom. This definitely could be a little notions pouch. The plastic is soft, so I don't think it's gonna crack or anything like that. And I ordered another one already. And then I got in touch with her and I said, hey, I'm gonna talk about this in my podcast, because she doesn't have a ton of these in her shop, but I know that she will make more. She's got project bags, then she makes a bunch of other stuff. So she's definitely a sewer. But I thought that this was just really cute. $13.50 and free shipping, right? And it's handmade, and it fits. It's super narrow, you know, just slides down in the pocket of my purse, and I can see what's inside it, which is key for me. Then I want to tell you about a couple people on Instagram that you might want to follow. It is Nick and Liv, N-I-K and L-I-V DIY. And they do a bunch of DIY stuff, which does not always interest me. But they started a thing this summer called Good Work Wednesday. And they're out there doing good deeds on Wednesdays. I don't know what their jobs are that they have Wednesdays available, but they go around the community, and mostly he is doing yard cleanup for free for people. So he mows their lawn, trims their hedges, and it is so much fun to watch because he finds the worst yard in town. Obviously the person is sick, ill, unable to mow, unable to afford it, whatever. And he knocks on their door and he said, I would just like to mow your lawn for free. I would just like to clean up your yard for free. And he goes into the backyards of some of these places, and it takes him all day on a Wednesday, but he edges and trims and mows. And now people all over apparently are starting to do the same thing, this Good Work Wednesday. So go over and look at their site and find the Good Work Wednesday ones and watch them, because it's Nick and Liv, N-I-K and L-I-V. It's just really fun. There's nothing like watching the fronts of these houses completely transform. And he doesn't like interview the people or shame them or whatever. He just says, looks like I was just passing by. I've got time. Can I clean it up? And yeah, it's amazing. It's really fun to watch. So highly recommend. Then I have had some yarn purchases on top of everything else and cast on some things. But at Bee Woolen on Saturday, so I think I'll tell that little snippet now. So I met Stacy Charles in New York City, and he was the owner of Taki Stacy Charles, the yarn company. And I was standing, I probably told the story before, but I don't remember if I've told it on the podcast, probably. I was standing on a street corner, Lexington and 78th, something like that, in New York City, looking for string yarn store. And I couldn't see it. And I was kitty corner across the street. So then I walked across the street, and it was on the second floor. And I didn't know that. And so I was just looking for a door, but I was looking for a storefront. And this gentleman, and I had on my Foxy sweater, you know, the one with all the foxes on it. And this was in 2016, March of 2016. We were there for spring break. We have done that a number of times, gone to New York to see some shows. That's one of our favorite things to do. And I had on some fingerless mitts because it was cold out. So I had on my little fingerless mitts with like little sheep on the hand. Have I showed those on here? Somebody let me know if you remember. I should show those because they're really cute. Maybe I have. I've been doing this for so long. Anyway, so he knew I was a knitter, but I didn't know who he was. And I said, well, I'm looking for the yarn store string. And he said, oh, it's right up there. I just purchased the store. That's my store. And I was like, who are you? And he said, I'm Stacy Charles. He was the nicest man. He talked to me for 5 minutes. We were in the process of writing the book, Minnesota 52. I told him that. And he said, you go in. I just left. The girls will help you. They'd be happy to help you. We've got beautiful cashmere because this is in Manhattan. And so this is the high-end yarn store. I mean, they have some other yarns, but I did buy cashmere when I was in there that day. And yeah, he was just so kind. He offered yarn support for our book. He said, email me. I'm happy to send you our color cards. Like, he was just so kind. Well, in the meantime now, all these years later, Bee Woolen, which is the yarn store in Champlin, Minnesota. And so that it's on the northern loop of the Twin Cities. And if you are local and you have not been there, drop everything, because they have the best thing going on up there. Talked about it before. But he came to speak in June, and he was going to do his trunk show and his sample sale. Well, I couldn't get signed up fast enough. And they got full. So I didn't get to go. And it wasn't a big deal, but I thought, okay, I'll watch for that. So he was coming back in November. So I called friends in October and I said, hey, I'm going. Does anybody want to go? Friday, Saturday, we went back and forth. And only a couple people could go, Matt and Bonnie. But so we were there. We went at 11 and it went till 3, and he showed us the yarns and all this. He went through some of the samples. And I'm going to put a picture of a really cute hat in here. It's called the Holly hat. Really cute. Then they had an entrelac front sweater that I thought was darling. And then they had a pullover kind of, it looked like rib, but it had tiny little sweet sequins all over it. And because it was like in this straw color, kind of neutral oatmeal-y, I wasn't, but then they had 2 gals there that were putting the samples on for us. And when she put it on, I was like, oh my gosh, that's darling. It was really cute on. If you are looking for something to wear to holiday parties, but that you could also kind of wear year round, that sweater with those sequins in it. I took a little video so you can see the sequins a little bit, but it didn't scream sequins. They were just tiny little blips. It was really cool here. Oh, there we go. Now we see us doing a little. And then I purchased yarn to make the Maya pullover. And I probably shouldn't show this because it was super expensive, and you get the pattern with the purchase. But I have looked at this the last 2 times I've gone to Be Woolen, and someone was knitting it one time, someone was wearing it. This time the girl behind the counter was wearing it, and they gave us a discount because we were there on Saturday. So we got a significant savings on the yarn, and it was still expensive because it's cashmere. But this is the sweater. Isn't it cute? I mean, it's just super interesting. So I'm looking for the brightest color, right? And they have an orange that's super bright, but I'm kind of getting over the super bright orange. Like, I don't want everything in my wardrobe to be like this. Like, this is tonal. I know it looks bright on the camera with the lights, but it definitely has, it's darker than what I'm seeing on the screen right there. It's just got a more of a depth. So, but they had this pink, and it looks bright too, but and so I thought, okay, I would do it in pink, right? But they didn't have enough. So I needed 10 balls, but they thought I could get by with 9, but I needed 10 balls. And this is Dolcetto yarn. And it is 70% merino, 30% cashmere. And it's kind of chunky and super soft. I mean, like, and I went back and forth and back and forth. Like, you've looked at this twice. You've decided it's too expensive. And I'm like, I don't really care. I'm going to buy it. So they didn't have enough. So then I went out and I looked at the other colors. And they did have kind of a raspberry, but it was dark, pinky purple. And everyone there was doing it in this charcoal or gray, right? And I'm just like, I just wouldn't wear that as much. So then I said, what if I color blocked it? I did the top half in hot pink and the bottom half in another color, like the navy or the charcoal. So then Michelle, who owns the shop, had it on the needles, and she said we could try it on. But then I talked to her, and it is not knit so that I can make it color blocked on the top, because you knit this piece, then you knit the back, and then you knit the sleeves this way. So now what I've decided to do is I'm going to knit this in the charcoal and this in the hot pink. What do you think? Then this in the charcoal, and then these will be hot pink. So it's this charcoal gray, which I do think is going to be more classy than the all over hot pink, which would be totally Cori, but not nearly as classy if I do it with the black. So that's what I'm going to do. And I really want to cast it on right now. And I can't because I have designs due. I'm way behind. I have testing call that I sent out this morning, and I have 3 more testing calls to go out later this week to my testers. I just got behind because of my surgery, and I haven't published hardly any patterns this year. Just really needed to get it done. And so I have 5 sweaters on the needles that are not finished, that are all fairly close. So for this 2 weeks, when my husband was going to be gone, I was just like, I am pajamming it all day, every day. Like, I am peanut butter and jelly in the chair. I'm going to sit and knit all day, every day. And then I have the podcast, and tomorrow I teach, and I also have my appointment, and Wednesday I'm going to Sioux Falls, and I'm not coming back. I have the haircut and color on Friday, and I'm like, where's all the knitting time? Like, I should have all the knitting time in the world, and it's still not enough time. Like, I know all of you say, I wish I had more time to knit. I have, like, this is my time, and I still don't have enough time. There's never enough time to knit all the things you want to knit. So anyway, I ended up buying that. I'm super excited about it. It'll be really fun. It's not like I haven't spent tons of money on yarn before. And I do think it's a lovely luxury yarn. I'm excited about knitting it. But one of the reasons that I didn't buy, they had like a burgundy red that they were trying to tell me that I could knit it in. And I could have knit that in that, except I'm already knitting a top-down brioche sleeveless top. And it's the same look, right? Like the other one's ribbed. This is just a vest. It's just literally a vest with like sleeves, where this other one is more, looks almost poncho-like. It's not a poncho, it does have sleeves, but, oh, I have a little line in there. Can you guys see that? Oh, maybe it's just, when I held it up, I was like, there's a line right there. So anyway, I already have that on the needle, so I'm like, I can't do red. This is that blown yarn. I can't do red, you guys. I can't. So I bought the hot pink and the black. Anyway, we had a lovely time. I walked up to Stacy and I before everything started, and I thought, I just have to tell him my story about how nice he was to me and whatever. And he goes, Cori. And I was like, he does not remember me from 6 years ago. We had a 5-minute conversation in New York City on a street corner, right? Well, he didn't, I don't think, which is fine. Like, but my name had come up the night before, apparently, and someone had said something. And then I think he had went and looked me up because he said, I remember you like bright colors. And I was like, how would you know I like bright colors, right? He must have gone to my Instagram or my Facebook or my design page, right? They must have had, I don't know why it would have come up. I mean, I've taught for Be Woolen, and there are people there who I know. So I don't know why my name would have come up in conversation. Maybe April or Angel and Michelle took him out to dinner or something. I don't know. But he said, your name came up in conversation last night. And I was like, that's why you remember my first name. Because if you would have remembered my first name 6 years later from a street corner, yeah, anyway. But super nice guy. Talked to me several times during the class. I think I was sitting toward the front, and I think he just felt like it's nice when you kind of feel like you know someone. So we talked for a number of minutes before, and then during, and then after, and he was going to try to get me more. This colorway they're out of it, and they're not making this color anymore. This pattern is going to come out in the spring in DK weight instead of this heavier weight. And they're going to do that same Maya pullover in the DK. It'll probably just be a little more drapey. But I just decided I really liked the chunky look, because I could have waited and gotten, because they do have other colors, but they're just running out right now because they're getting out, all their winter stuff is out to all the stores now. And now they're going to they're already ready to launch the spring patterns. It's the, nature of the business when you're doing seasonal stuff like that. So anyway, I ended up chatting. We had a lovely lunch. Man, did they put on a spread. She called it nibbles. It was way more than nibbles, Michelle. It was just really, really a fun afternoon. I thought I wanted to just stay home and knit because I'm so far behind. I thought you should not be going to this for all day today. You need to get your knitting done. And I did knit while I was there, but you never can knit in a class like that as much as, you think you can knit. So I was knitting on this pattern that I'm going to show you. But anyway, it was just a lovely time. We got to try on, everybody purchased stuff. We got a notebook. We got coupon code, we got a, discount, we got yarn, then we won yarn. It could not have been better. They just do a lovely job. They do what they call lock-ins, where you just go for this longer period of time and spend your time at the shop. It was full, packed. I mean, they didn't, like the room was full, all the chairs were full. Like they can't seat 50. Like, it's a room next to their store, which it's larger than most yarn stores have, but we definitely had room. And then when people got up and shopped and stuff, there's definitely room, but I'm sure that they had sold out the event on Friday night and on Saturday. It was just a lovely time. So I highly recommend go into a class whenever you can, go in to learn something from people. So 2 weeks ago on a Thursday night, I took a class from Ann Weaver through Three Kittens Yarn Shop here in the Twin Cities. That's way on the other side, on the east side of the Twin Cities from me. But I wanted to knit that pressed flower shawl, and I bought the yarn for it in a lime green and kind of a magenta. And I could not wrap my head around the chart for the slip stitches. I have not done charted slip stitches. I've never written a chart for slip stitches and stuff. And I was post-surgery, and I was like, you know, I'd like to cast that on, but I don't know that I have the brain power. And if you've been around long enough, you know, I just cast on. I cast on all the time. I love casting on. I love getting the yarn out and winding it, and then it takes me forever before stuff gets finished. I mean, I'm always finishing stuff, but some of it's been on the needles for years. It's my MO. So I thought, oh, she's teaching a tips and tricks class about the pressed flower shawl. That might be kind of fun to sit here. It was on Zoom. It was an hour and a half or 2 hours on a Thursday evening at like 5 o'clock. I was like, I could do that. I'm sitting here anyway. So I took it. It was great. Not because I couldn't have figured it out. Once I got started, there's a provisional cast on, which is not a problem, but there were 3 options that she gave us for provisional cast on. And the one that I always use is crochet hook. And I wish I would have used the other one because it would have worked out better. I mean, mine worked, and I asked her about it in the class. But she had tips that are going to make that knitting that shawl so much easier, right? So I got going. I got, going on it. I got my first piece of flower done during the class, and she just kind of walked people through it. And then she talked about the increases and how you could make that easier. She talked about like the 2-row repeat of going over and back and slipping your stitches up. Like, she just had some really, and I like Ann Weaver. I follow her on Instagram. She's an interesting person. She has some politics that I never want to get into it here because I just don't want my comments to ever get ugly. I think most of you know that I'm a fairly liberal person, and I like following Anne. I don't want to get, anyway, but she's just a good teacher, and I'd never taken a class from her. And about halfway through the class, she goes, Cori, do I know you? Are you a designer? And, I want to kind of keep a low profile in classes like that. Like, I want to go, but I don't want ever anybody to think that I'm in there, like, taking notes from their class, right? Like, that I might teach or that, I might be writing notes, judging. I just like to see other people's style and how they teach and what I can learn. And I said yes, and she goes, I follow. And I told her, and she's like, I follow you. You follow me. I said, yeah, I do. I follow you. And so it was lovely. Then we chatted for a couple minutes on the Zoom. It was a very small class. I think there were 5 of us total, right? So then you can, you can get all the questions that you want answered. And yeah, it was lovely. It was just a great class. And so I don't know when I will get that pressed flower shawl knit. But anyway, I've been working on it doing like a couple rows when I sit down in the evening, and then picking up my socks and my blankets and my sachets. Oh my gosh, I just have so many things. You can either kind of be a designer or you can be a knitter, but it's really hard to be both. Oh, and you can be a designer and you can be a teacher, but it's hard to do all that too if you teach a lot. So right now I am teaching in our county in a parenting program. I'm teaching beginning knitting to a group of young, some single, then some, there was a partner with someone last time, and pregnant or young moms, maybe low income, maybe it's a programs provided by the county. You wouldn't necessarily have to be low income, but anyway. And the social worker who runs the program, took my beginning knitting class at the library. So then she reached out and asked me if I'd be willing to teach. And she said, This is a really interesting group of people. You know, she's trying to like couch me in the fact that sometimes they don't show up, they might not come back the next week. And I was like, I taught at-risk kids. I know exactly the types of lives that they have, and their life can be crazy, and their life can be hard, and their life can be difficult. And, you know, so I think I know the clientele that you're working with. And so she was like, oh, I'm like, no problem. Right. And I had a lovely group. There were 1, 2, 5, 6 of them. And one of them was a young man, with a woman, and he learned too. So it was really nice. That's my favorite thing to do. I've said that before. Make new knitters is my favorite thing to do. I love it when the light bulb goes off. The one girl was a crocheter, and she's like, I've tried knitting before and I'm not going to be able to do it, you know. And I love that like challenge of someone saying, you can't teach me. And I've had that in adult classes too, where someone says, I'm never going to get this when they get to class. It's that feeling that they're having of like, if I don't get this, I want them to know that I've struggled before, or that I can't do things, or that I can't learn new things and it's hard for me or whatever. And they will have a tendency to blurt that out, right? And just say, just to give you that heads up, and that's usually just comes from a place of failure in the past, or, you know, not being confident or whatever. And I said, I'm going to have you all knitting. I promise. In 20 minutes, you will all know the knit stitch. I promise you. And they were. So we learned the knit stitch, and they all went home with yarn. They provided the yarn and the needles. And they all went home with yarn and needles. And then this week they'll come back, and hopefully we can learn the purl and get them cast on for a hat. I'm hoping. I don't know. I'm only going 3 weeks. And usually I try to teach the knit and the purl in the first class, but I have 2 hours. And with this group, it's only an hour and a half. And they drop their kids off. So it's a free daycare situation for them for an hour and a half. And then they come over and they have a program, or the social workers help them with like paperwork they might have to do with the county, or getting housing, or, you know, those kinds of things. Or they'll have a speaker come in, or they have an activity, but it's just like an hour and a half of like freedom. But, you know, they kind of strolled in a little late. Then they had to take their kids over and then come back. And so by the time we got started, we had enough time to learn the knit and practice. That is all the time we really had, which is fine. Like I don't have to make them into perfect knitters in 3 weeks, but it was really fun. They were just a really nice group of people, and really willing and open to give it a try. And kind of they usually don't do necessarily a craft. So yeah, it was really fun. I have a Cori stories this week. You all know that Kylie passed the bar, and that she's working as a clerk with the Minnesota Court of Appeals. But 2 weeks ago on Friday was her induction into the Bar Association of Minnesota, and we got to go, and it was amazing. I cannot tell you, there were 14 clerks getting sworn in on this day. And because they're clerks in the Court of Appeals, they have a special ceremony. So they don't go to the other event where it's a mass swearing in, where they say some things and then they all do their, all the other kids that pass the bar. They do this special one, which was, we got to be in the Justice Center, and just across from the Capitol. It was a beautiful fall Friday. The sun was shining. The Minnesota State Capitol has a gold dome with gold horses around the top. The sun was shining. It was stunning. And then, we're walking into this beautiful judicial center. Even the elevator was fancy. It had wood, it was just, and then we went into the Supreme Court room, and the judges, there were probably 10 judges or so, and they come in from behind and step into up on the dais, right? And then and then the clerks all sat down along the benches along the back wall where the little fence with the gate was, and then we were behind it. And there's only a couple of rows of seating, but it was full of parents. if you are an attorney, you can present your child for induction. So 2 or 3 dads and a mom, one of the judges, actually, her son, so they got to go down front to the podium and present, but each judge spoke about each kid. And the whole thing lasted maybe an hour, so they moved it along. But the Chief Justice is a new Chief Justice, and they haven't had this for 2 years because of COVID, or 3 years. I don't know when they actually, probably 2 years. But so she had never run one, and so she said, I hope I don't mess this up. I just want this to be a lovely experience for everyone. And she kept it kind of lighthearted, and each person kind of told a little story about each kid, and I am not kidding. These kids are so amazing. I was like, wow, Kylie, you are working with some top-notch kids. I mean, there was a girl from China who got her law degree in China. Then she went to London and got her art history degree, master's, worked in a museum, then wanted to do art law or something, and then came to the US and got her law degree here. Like, you know, and a couple of them were a little older, none of them were like, Kylie's an adult, but none of them were like adults, right? And then one of the fathers went down in the front, and he said, I have known Lindsay her whole life. And everyone burst out laughing, right? Because of course her father's known her. And so then when the judge, then at the end once they tell the little background details about each kid, then they have to read this statement. It's something about, because of their ethical and moral value and their commitment to the law, I present the person for, and whatever, they say their little statement. And then the Chief Justice has to say approved or, you know, noted. And so she said, and because you have known Lindsay her entire life, enthusiastically granted. And she hit the thing. It was just really nice. 2 of the dads got a little choked up. That part was incredible. I mean, it was a proud day for us, but it was more, I just want to share the experience of that. Like, these judges have taken these kids under their wing for 1 year. I call them kids. I know they're not kids, but to me, she's still in college, or high school. They're mentoring them, and they're teaching them about the appellate laws for 1 year, and then they're gone, and then they do it again. And so they teach them, you know, and Kylie says she learns stuff every single day about the law. She's considering doing it for a 2nd year as an elbow clerk with another judge, or maybe a shared clerk. I mean, she really likes it a lot. And you can do it for a 2nd year. She also feels like she should go out and get some other experience working for a firm, so she's really torn. But she's just really, everyone there was so kind and so nice. Even the security guards that got us in and we got our badges, those people. But even when we walked down the hall, people that were walking around, people that are working, were like, congratulations, because they knew that it was their day, right? Like, you could just tell that it was a place of kindness and learning, and I don't know, it just felt so awesome. However, of course, I have a Cori story. So afterwards, they said we could come down onto the floor of the Supreme Court and take pictures if we wanted with the judge in their, you know, robe and whatever. And then they were having refreshments afterwards, so we could meet with the judges, and then we could go back to their chambers and see their chambers and see where our kids worked and whatever. I mean, so we were, you know, tickled. So I said, yes, we want a picture, right? So it was Stevie and I and Kylie and Ross, and we went down and we were in front of the dais. And there were other families gathering to take pictures too. So the person who took our phone, and I think it was either Carly or Lindsay, one of the gals that Kylie works with, and her family was there too. And I said, I'll take your picture. She said, you know, get together. So I turn to Ross and I say, you know, move in. I think I just said move in. And we get done. We go through the rest of the day, and I get the picture back. And you guys, I sent it to Kylie. It was so funny. I sent it to Kylie and said, this is the best picture we got all day. I am not grabbing my husband. I swear. It is so naughty. It's not. It was never intentional. She caught it. We got tons of other pictures. She took a bunch. That was the first one that came up. And I was like, Cori Eichelberger, what were you thinking? You're standing in the Supreme Courtroom with all the justices. Anyway, I thought you would get a laugh. I've shared it with people. Everybody laughs. I hope you think it's funny because it's not inappropriate. It's just dumb. I have not shown Ross because he would be mortified. He is so stoic and straight-laced. I mean, I think he knew on Saturday night when I was talking to Kylie that there had been a bad picture, but I didn't show him which one it was because he would just roll his eyes and be like, what were you doing? Because it's always something with me. So anyway, I will put some pictures in. We had a lovely day. She's done. We got out to the car. We were driving home. We were like, whew. Our only child is done with school. She's done. She's got a paycheck. We don't have to support her anymore. And then she called this week because her car is broken and her dad had to fix it. I know it never goes away, but it was just like one of those moments where you're both just like, oh, we got her through. Like we supported her all the way, 7 years of school, the bar, passing, getting a job, you're just like, thank heavens. It's just like when your kid graduates from high school and college, you're just, those moments can be so just nice to have that be done. So I know a lot of you have, and we have someone out there that is in law school right now, going through law school. So it was a lovely day. Okay, I have to go back because I just want to say hi to a person that I met at Be Woolen on Saturday. And she said to me, we were in the main store, and she said to me, I'm caught up on all of your podcasts. I just love it. And I said, oh my gosh, thank you. And she goes, you know what I really like? And I said, no, tell me, because I turn on my iPad and I start talking. And an hour later, I have no idea what was a hit, what was a miss. I have no idea what parts you guys like or don't like or, could do without, although it would be hard to please everyone. But she says, I like the books. She's like, I love audiobooks. And I said, that is so good to know, because sometimes I have to go on and on about the books because I listen to so many that it feels like a big chunk of a knitting podcast. So that's why I've been trying to read the descriptions more, so I don't kind of go on and on. I just give you a synopsis and you can decide if it's for you or not. So, and I can't remember your name, and I apologize because we had name tags on. But thank you to the person who said hello that watches the podcast that was at Be Woolen on Saturday, because I really appreciated that. All right, let's do the audiobooks of the week this week while we're on the subject of audiobooks. The first one I read is called Pretty Girls by Karin Slaughter. I really liked it, but I can't recommend it. It's very graphic, very violent. I really liked the beginning a lot. It drew me right in. I didn't want to stop listening. More than 20 years ago, Claire and Lydia's teenage sister Julia vanished without a trace. The two women have not spoken since, and now their lives could not be more different. Claire is a glamorous trophy wife of an Atlanta millionaire. Lydia, a single mom, dates an ex-con and struggles to make ends meet, but neither has recovered from the horror and heartbreak of their shared loss, a devastating wound that's cruelly ripped open when Claire's husband is killed. And the disappearance of this teenage girl and what happened to her. It's a thriller, okay? So if you like that kind of book, then, you will like this. But it gets a little graphic. I really enjoyed the listen. It went so fast. I wanted to know who did it. I wanted to know how they caught them, you know, that kind of thing. So it did really keep me completely engaged. I was just going to look up how many hours it was. It was 20 hours. And I listened to it in just a matter of days. It was very good. It came out in 2015, so it's been out a while. So a bunch of you may have already read it, listened to it. I got it off of Libby. Okay, the second one I read was called The Hotel Nantucket, and I loved that as well. That is by Elin Hilderbrand. I haven't read a lot of stuff by her, but I looked up her whole list of everything, and she writes mostly about Nantucket Island where she lives. But this particular book had a Minnesota connection in it, a lot of Minnesota references, and so I think someone recommended it to me because of that. But yes, I really, really liked it. What's going on? I will give you just a brief update here while Cody interrupts me. He's doing great. His back legs are not good, and they have not been good for a while, but that's old age. I don't think it's the cancer. His back legs have gone out from him a couple times on the hardwood floor. We do have rug runners down. So the other night he couldn't get up off of his pillow. His butt was a little off, so it was low in the back, and he couldn't get up off his he has like a mattress pillow. It's gigantic in our family room. Because I'm a dog mama. And my husband even got up from the couch to go over and help him. He got there, but it took him a long time. He just had to push with his front legs. So, but other than that, he's still going to the dog park. He's still running with my husband in the morning. He's still eating, drinking. And it's been months, but he's doing great. Yeah, just like we haven't seen any signs of him like deteriorating. It's incredible. We feel super fortunate because he is the love of my life. Like, I worry about every little thing. And he's still getting all the treats. Okay, back to the Hotel Nantucket. Fresh off a bad breakup with a longtime boyfriend, Nantucket sweetheart Lisbeth Keaton is desperately seeking a second act. When she's named the general manager of the Hotel Nantucket, a once gilded age gem turned abandoned eyesore, she hopes that her local expertise and charismatic staff can win the favor of their new London billionaire owner. So it's all about them restoring and opening the Hotel Nantucket and trying to get the 5-star review that no one has ever gotten from this reviewer person. There were some things that happened that I didn't see coming. Sometimes, you know, you think you know, right? They're so-and-so and so-and-so are going to fall in love and get together by the end of the book, right? Like that kind of stuff. And this one had a couple of things that surprised me that didn't happen or were different. And I was like, oh, I love that. Like, I think that just makes for a better read. I would definitely recommend this to anybody. It was 12-hour audiobook. Okay, and then the last one was a little bit slower of a read for me. It's called The Dictionary of Lost Words. It was recommended by someone on the who watches the podcast, by Pip Williams. Esme is born into the world of words, motherless and irrepressibly curious. She spends her childhood in the scriptorium, an Oxford garden shed in which her father and a team of dedicated lexicographers are collecting words for the very first Oxford English dictionary. Young Ismay's place is beneath the sorting table, unseen and unheard. One day, a slip of paper containing the word bondmaid flutters beneath the table. And it's the story of her life growing up around words. Her mother is not in the picture, so she's got to go to work with her father, and she's young, and she sits under the table. And it is, if you are a lover of words, like an English teacher, there are quite a few word definitions that they do at the beginning of the chapters, and she will define words throughout the book, but it is a story. It's definitely a story about her life as she grows up, and she wants to be educated, but she doesn't have any interest in marriage or finding a man, and they send her away to school and it does not go well, and then she comes back, and she does become one of the females that gets to help, because of course back in the day that would not have been a thing. So yeah, it got really good reviews up front. I would say it was just a little bit slower of a listen for me than like the fast-paced, light-hearted Nantucket or the thriller, right? So when things follow like that, they feel different, but it was still a really good narrative story, and it was 11 hours. So those are 3 audiobooks this week. All right, I purchased a little more yarn, and I'm not happy with it, so I'm going to share it quick. So La Bien-Aimée is a yarn store in Paris, and Amy of La Bien-Aimée is the owner, and she had a new confetti yarn come out that's called Cori, C-O-R-R-I-E, and I thought that I should have it, except I wanted it to look like this. That's how the picture looked, bright gold, and it came like this, and it's expensive, very expensive. So this is ochre number 3. It has all different colored neps in it, so it's lovely, but it is not the color I thought it was. And you can hold this with it and it should brighten it up. So I was like, okay, you know, it should brighten it up. I have mohair, 3 skeins of mohair, and 5 or 6 of this one. It is 50% Falkland Corriedale and 30% recycled fibers, and 20% of La Bien-Aimée recycled threads, which are those little neps in there. So it's a lovely feel. Like, it's a more rustic, it's not a merino, but it's a lovely feel. Well, then my friend Karin from Virginia, hi Karin, sent me an Instagram thing and said, hey, this looks right up your alley and it's named for you. And I was like, oh gosh, oh my gosh. And it was the same yarn in orange. And I didn't know that the yarn was orange, but it was bright orange. And so I ordered it, twice burned. It's not bright. The picture on Instagram is bright. I should show you all. This came from Brooklyn General in New York City. Do you see how bright that is? I don't know if they had a filter on it, but I love that. Not this. Like, it's fine. I can knit with it, but I spent so much money. So last week I decided that I'm probably going to offer these both up for sale on my Ravelry. I will discount the price of the gold and the orange and see if either one sells to someone. Then that way I can just move forward, right? I can get it sold, and then I can knit with yarn that I found in person. That is totally my color that I really want to knit with, because I will not pick this next. It's fine. It's lovely, but it's not the color that I thought it was. And then you feel disappointed. Like, I thought it was going to be, you know, closer to my sweater. It's a darker orange in the picture, but it isn't. So I'm going to just put them out on Ravelry. If anyone has a bunch of money sitting around and they really wanted this Cori worsted, it's very hard to get. That's the other problem. You can't find it everywhere, and it's been selling out because they're not making as much of it. And it's lovely, and it's got my name on it. I should probably have some, right? I use all the excuses. And if it were if the gold were this color, and I may knit up a swatch and see what happens, because that's the light. I have my bright lights on. It's not that yellow. It's bright, but it's gold. It's a bright gold, but not yellow. Like, that looks like corn. Anyway, so I was just bummed because I got burned twice. And no one's fault. I should have known after the first one that it's a flatter color. And I don't know. Like, I know colors are never true on a monitor, but it's not available in the Twin Cities for me to go look at it that I know of yet. We have a drawing. I did a random number generator from the comments for last time. And the yarn is this one skein of pumpkin spice yarn from Swift Yarns and a package of stitch markers. And that is going to Mayjoe, Mayjoe. You left a comment on the last podcast, so get in touch with me. Send me your address and first and last name to Cori at irocknits.com, and I will put that in the mail to you. Congratulations. I have a giveaway for next time, and I think I have a giveaway for the next time too. So where did the little thing that goes with this go? Oh, I have so much stuff on the table, you guys. Oh, it's in the bag. Okay, so I have 2 skeins of Catalana DK. It's a wool and cotton blend. It is so soft. And it is sherbet colored. It is not bright. It is sherbet colored, okay? It's looking like my sweater. It's not my sweater. It's a paler orange. So you have 2 skeins of this. It's Jadifra, and it is 50% virgin wool, 50% cotton, 120 meters and 50 grams. So you're getting enough to make, you know, a hat with extras, mittens, a cowl, a baby something. This would be great for a babe. And then there is a little scissors in here, a storklet, really nice little scissors to go with it. So if you want to be in the drawing for this for next time, just leave a comment below. You do not have to write something necessarily. If you just want to say yarn and nothing else, that's fine. I'm just drawing from all the comments. The last one was number 40. I just did a random number generator for the total number of comments, and then I just counted down 40. That's how I'm doing it. It's just easy. It's not difficult for me to do it, and I just include anybody who makes a comment. So that is for next time. Then I have a new pattern to show all of you quickly because I'm super excited about it. This is definitely a sneak peek. This pattern is not ready for publication. Right now it is at the tech editor. So she is gonna get my pattern tech edit. I have 2 patterns for the same thing coming out hopefully by December 1st. That's my goal. End of November. The faster I can get them done. But my test knitters don't have it yet because it has to be tech edited first. Because I always like her to look over my numbers so the test knitters get the closest copy I can get. But so I sent out my first test knit inquiry this morning saying, does anybody want to knit these? And I got a bunch of people responding already within the first little bit. So man, you people are on your emails. So I think I need 12 testers, and the turnaround is really fast. So they only have to knit 1 sock in order to check the pattern because the second sock's the same. And this is the pattern. So this is my chim-in-ney sock pattern. I made them in a larger size than my normal size, so they're a little big on my sock blocker. Mostly because Joanna, my model, has a bigger foot, and I'm going to use her to do some other pattern stuff. So I thought, well, she'll be there. I don't have to stick my foot in the sock. And so it is slipped stitches. It's not color work. And then the garland is optional. And then the foot is just solid with a band heel. Don't know, of course that's going to be, but it's got this little band right here that you knit down. So you make a little heel flap, you go back and forth, and then you go across, back and forth, decreasing here and here. My sock blocker is just too small. And then you go down. So you don't ever do a heel turn, which is really fun. And then you just decrease away a few gusset stitches. And so it's less interruptive for a self-striping sock yarn as well. But kind of a fun pattern. Then you make this little I-cord garland and you make some little Christmas lights if you like. I think this would be really fun. These are DK weight and fingering. So here's the DK. Here is the fingering, still on the needle. I'm still working on finishing these up. But I think it turned out really cute. It matches my chim-in-ney hat, which is the first pattern I ever published. I always wanted to make up the socks and I never got it done because then we wrote a book and then we wrote another book. And then anyway, so I asked Jeanette and George of Sun Valley Fibers if they would be okay if I used their yarn, and they said yes. So I purchased yarn from them and knit up the DK weight. So they would make really cute Christmas bed socks. But this morning already, I had 2 knitters get back to me and say, can I knit it as a Christmas stocking? And I didn't even think of that. Like, I have an old Christmas stocking pattern that I've meant to update and redo for years, and I've never done it. So, so they're gonna cast on I think the large size and use worsted weight yarn and see if it'll come out as a Christmas stocking, which will be really cute. And so then I will probably write that and add it to the pattern. I just don't know how I'm gonna get this all done in the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Because I have other stuff already in the works. I don't even know if I've talked about this, but I'm gonna write a baby pattern book. And I'm gonna have a bunch of different kinds of patterns in it, all I think a little unique, a little whimsical, but also have some standard, just regular, everyday patterns in them. So I'm gonna do 2 blankets with multiple sizes. So like all the way from like a little infant binky blanket all the way up to adult. And I'm using Knit Picks, bulky, chunky yarn, and with a textured stitch pattern. But then I'm also gonna do the little sachets that I showed last podcast in that book as well, because some people got in touch, and I'm going to do one that says Tooth Fairy, which I think will be super cute. And then I have I'm going to do one that says Shh, Baby's Sleeping. So the sachet pattern is not ready because I had to do the socks first because they're a December and they have to get out, right? Like they should have been out November 1st, and that didn't happen. And so sometimes it's just like whatever. So the sachets and the blankets are next up to be finished being written. Like I've already started them, they're laid out, but I have not checked all my numbers, and then they have to go to the tech editor and then the test knitters. So testers got that information this morning for the socks, but then the sachets and the baby blankets, and then I have 2 baby hats to write. And this is all, you know, in progress stuff for the winter, but I've been trying to knit, but give myself some permission for an hour to 2 each day to knit on just something personal, and it's not working well. Like I want to be selfish and knit on some stuff for myself and finish things up, but it doesn't get me ahead on my design stuff, and that's fine, right? Like I'm not complaining about my life. Like I have a great life and I'm so fortunate. I'm getting back to teaching just a little bit, which I'm going to also talk about here. So let me talk about that quickly. But anyway, those socks are called the chim-in-ney socks, and they should be out at the end of the month. But I did have someone on here offer to knit one quickly, and I can't find your email because I can't remember your first name. So if you were that person, I don't need a bunch of people because I have a huge testers list, and I like to work with people that have test knit for me before because I know that they show up, they get it done, they turn in their tester sheet, and they weigh their product, and they post on Instagram or Facebook or Ravelry for me. And I've been burned, so it's not that I'm not taking new testers, but this is not a call on my podcast for testers. But I did have someone reach out and say that they could knit a sock really fast, and I feel like I should give that person a chance, and now I can't find that email because I put it in a folder, I think. I don't remember the person's first name to search it. So dumb. Cori. But anyway, I'm still writing 3 other books. There's a problem with a person with just too many ideas and not enough time. I could, if I could afford it, I could have like a staff and we could bang out stuff. All right, I am teaching my Fixer Upper class at Stephen B in person on November 30th. So if you're local and you have some problem knits or want to know some tips and tricks to finish and fix problem knitting after the fact, like after your neckline's too huge, your sleeves are gigantic, you use the wrong yarn, whatever, I'm doing a Fixer Upper class. And so you can bring projects to class that were disasters, and I will help you figure out ways to fix them, or other people will have them in class. But I also have some things that I bring to class, some tips and tricks, some from a sweater class, some from my shawls and socks. But I'm also teaching that class on Zoom on December 14th. And that is 5:30 to 7:30, and it is $40. So if you've always wanted to take a class with me, it's through Stephen B, and you can go to his website and then just search for Fixer Upper and sign up for that. It came out in his newsletter a week ago, Friday, and it came out again today. It's listed in his newsletter. If you get his newsletter, you can scroll down. There are links to just click to get right to the class page. But it's a 2-hour class where you can get specific help with any problem knit you have had where you finished the project and it did not work out. And the cost is $40. So I thought I would share that with you. I think I'm going back to Yarn Fest in Colorado in April. So if anyone's looking for a knitting event to attend, that's in Colorado. I contacted them because I hadn't heard anything, and I had sent my stuff in September, and they said they just had their meeting and I did get chosen to teach a number of classes. I just haven't got the contract yet, so I don't know what I'm teaching. And I have to be teaching enough that I can make it can be worth my while, because last year it wasn't. If you remember, I just taught one day, 2 classes, but then Ross and I decided to take a trip to see his aunt to kind of cover the fact that I wasn't going to make enough money for my trip out there. So they have to have picked more classes, or I can't afford to go. I'm so glad that I'm back. I feel much more energetic, much more upbeat. Yeah, it's been a long haul, 5 surgeries in 4 years. And I just need to have a little health, orthopedic health, and feel like I can get around and do some things. I really appreciate it when you're all here and you come and comment on the podcast. But until next time, no green bananas, waddle on. You'll never regret ripping back. Buy the gravy. I forgot that one last week. Don't complain with your mouth full. Keep it colorful. Keep your fork. Come in for your hug. Someone said they always hug me back. You know, I started hugging everybody during COVID, and now it just feels like something that I need to do, even though it's not like a real hug, but the sentiment is there for me. It's just that, like, some of you are going through hard times, like really hard times. You've got stuff in your life, and I'm sad for you, and I'm thinking of you, and you write me and you tell me what you've got going on, and I just feel bad sometimes, and I think, gosh, I want to lift you up. So the only way I know to do it is just to like give you a hug at the end of the podcast and just say, hang in there. That's about all we can really do, right, on a daily basis, is like kind of just when you're in a bad space, hang in, just hang in. My mom used to say, always one day at a time, just one day at a time, when she was going through her mental health journey. Back in the day, you just have to get through today. Sometimes you just have to get through this afternoon, and that's it. Just make it until supper or whatever. Otherwise, I will see you all in 2 weeks. I hope that you have your holiday knitting going. If you're knitting for Hanukkah or Kwanzaa or Christmas, I have hats and cowls that are quick knits, and that's one way that you can always support me, is just by going over and buying any pattern of mine. So until next time, bye. Love you all.